Rob Reiner knew comedy, especially as the son of the legend Carl Reiner. But he could also laugh at himself. Here's a clip from his Friars Club roast in the year 2000, Roger Ebert's rather scathing review of the Reiner movie North.
Hated every simpering, stupid, vacant, audience-insulting moment of it. Hated the sensibility that thought anyone would like it. Hated the implied insult to the audience by its belief that anyone would be entertained by it. Well, I thought those, if you read between the lines, it's not that bad.
And he could do a line read as well. Rob Reiner obviously enjoyed so much critical praise, had the ability to laugh at himself, and meant so much on so many different facets of this business that we call show and Hollywood here in California. Let's discuss Rob Reiner's life and legacy now with news and culture writer from the LA Times, Lorraine Ali. Lorraine, it's great to have you on the show under these horrible circumstances, but we see the joy that Rob brings even to a scathing review. He was one of a kind in so many ways, wasn't he?
Oh, definitely. I mean, whether it's just, spontaneous stand-up like that, whether it's as a director, as an actor, as a comedian, just his range was incredible. And I think he had kind of touched on so many different areas during his lifetime: film, politics, behind the camera, in front of the camera, all of those things. And I think it endeared him to several generations. Aside from the human loss here, it is a huge loss in terms of talent.
Yeah, when we think about the generations, it's important to think about that with Rob, especially because he is generations deep into this comedy dynasty of sorts with Carl, who was a trailblazer and made so many amazing comedic careers possible himself. And Rob comes up, and we see this so often with the progeny of successful and groundbreaking people. It can be a really difficult weight to bear. But Rob, talk about the ways he worked through that, and obviously did, some could say, even more than his father.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Often when it is the offspring of somebody like, Carl Reiner, or somebody who's famous, it is like that's a huge, huge mantle to be up against. Rob Reiner started, I think the American public first kind of came to know him through All in the Family, where he played the son-in-law to Archie Bunker. Archie Bunker, total blowhard. The son-in-law, nicknamed Meathead from Archie, was a complete liberal and a hippie. And Rob would, as Meathead, would argue these points against Archie that, Archie was racist, he was sexist, he was pro-war, all those things. And Rob's character argued against that. And in many ways, the character is very, little did we know at that time, but very aligned with how he was as a person moving forward, and the causes that he fought for in real life. And I think, it's kind of ironic that not ironic, but I think it's fitting that this is kind of how we came to know him, because he became this voice for, standing up for gay rights, fighting against racism, early childhood education, all those things that Meathead would have fought Archie for.
Yeah, it's beautiful to see so much of what Rob Reiner fought for, as you say, in politics, reflected in that early role, which, as Howard Stern said today, if it was just Meathead that Rob Reiner was known for, that would have been so much, because we think about even now a popular sitcom actor, big in the culture back then, just a few networks, and this was a huge show. But then he goes on to this incredible directing career too, starting with, in 1984, the mockumentary, which almost births a genre, This Is Spinal Tap, and then goes on a crazy run, all the way to All the President's Men, with so many different genres. I mean, how can you, this run, how do you put it into words? How do you conceive it? We're looking at these films, Stand By Me, Misery, Princess Bride. When Harry Met Sally. I mean, it's a crazy, crazy run. It's like, some people said it's like Beatles-esque.
It really is. I mean, the range is incredible. And all of these films that you're, flashing up here right now for us to see the posters for, all of them were seminal in that decade and now in some way, right? And like you said, Spinal Tap like really set the bar for what a mockumentary would be, and also just in terms of like making fun of the excess of rock and roll. Um, Stand By Me, a coming of age film that is still at the very top of what coming of age films should be. When Harry Met Sally, a romance comedy, these are also different. And then Misery, terrifying. It's psychological horror.
Yeah.
And it was just, for him to be able to go from acting to all of these different genres in directing and then hit it out of the park is just kind of unheard of. And I think it's really, at times, I mean, I honestly, I will be honest, I kind of forgot that he had done so much.
Yeah.
And when I was looking at it again today, I was just like, oh my gosh, that's incredible.
It's so crazy. And
Yeah.
Lorraine, I mean, we haven't talked about Castle Rock Entertainment, which brings us Seinfeld and The Shawshank Redemption, all these Stephen King adaptations, which Misery and Stand By Me were amongst. It goes on. And as you told us with Meathead, embodying these political arguments on a sitcom, it reflects Reiner's politics, and that also shows up in his filmmaking too, with LBJ and American President. In our final moments, just talk about the ways in which Rob fused these passions of politics and entertainment.
Yeah, I mean, I think, early on, it came out a little bit later, I'd say, in his films where it was a little more, where he's pushing the mess, not, I don't want to say pushing the message, where his politics were infused more in the storylines of the films. But like he did, I don't remember, oh, Ghost of Mississippi, which was about the trial of a white supremacist accused of the assassination of Medgar Evers, civil rights activist. So that clearly was right up his alley. And he ended up doing a 2017 drama called Shock and Awe. And that was about journalists who had uncovered the faulty information that the justification for going to war in Iraq was made upon, if that makes sense. So basically what the US government used to, justify invading Iraq. And, at that point, I guess, you could say he at that point, people were realizing what happened with the war, but I do not think they knew to the extent, that we know now. And I think him unpacking it in this film was pretty brave.
Yeah. There's such a deep and abiding sense of humanity in these films, this curiosity and soulfulness in his directing. Even Representative Ted Cruz from the other side of the aisle saying with The Princess Bride, it was the humanity that I saw on display there that made me such a fan of that film and ultimately that of Rob Reiner. And you speak to it so well, Lorraine. Thank you so much for coming on for this moment to have this remembrance with us. We appreciate your presence so much.
Of course. Thank you.
Thank you. Lorraine Ali from the LA Times, talking, of course, about this loss that we're all trying to come to terms with in some way or another. We'll have more on the murder investigation and more news coming up after the break. Stay with us.
Thank you for watching our YouTube channel. For more stories in your communities, click the subscribe button right here. You can also download our app or watch us on TV for the latest information, balanced coverage, weather updates every 10 minutes, and more. We'll see you then.